Everyone saw her, but no one really looked at her. She moved through the marble corridors of Titan Tech Tower like a passing shadow, silent, steady, and deliberately unseen. Her shoes, cracked at the edges and soaked from the storm outside, squeaked softly with each step as she pushed the cleaning cart past floor-to-ceiling windows and men in $1,000 suits. They all assumed she was just the janitor. But behind those quiet eyes and threadbare sneakers was a mind they had already underestimated once and were about to regret underestimating again. At exactly 6:02 a.m., she arrived on the top floor. The early board meeting had just wrapped up. Suits spilled out of the conference room in waves of self-congratulations and caffeine. Nia Brooks stood quietly, wiping the edge of a glass table, her head lowered, her face partially hidden by a loose strand of curls. She didn't need to look up to know he was approaching. She could smell his cologne before she heard his voice. "That smell coming from your shoes? Or the mop water?" The voice was laced with casual cruelty, loud enough for the entire floor to hear. A few executives chuckled nervously. Some looked away, uncomfortable. But Nia didn't respond. She just kept wiping. Slowly. Calmly. Derek Langston, billionaire tech mogul, founder of Titan Tech, and the man who had once offered her a seat at the table before erasing her from the industry, stood there smirking like a man who believed himself invincible. His gaze dropped to her shoes again, and he scoffed. "Next time, try wearing something that doesn't scream poverty. This is a billion-dollar building, not a shelter." The words stung, but Nia had trained herself not to flinch. What no one in that room knew was that 3 years ago, she'd been the brightest cybersecurity mind in the country, until Langston's company accused her of corporate theft. Her career, her reputation, and her future had vanished overnight. No evidence, no trial, just exile. She'd been 23, but Nia never forgot. And now, standing in the same building where they once celebrated her genius, wearing shoes they mocked, she was ready. That night, when the skyscraper emptied and silence returned to the glass and concrete palace of Titan Tech, Nia stayed behind. In a forgotten closet on the 43rd floor, behind janitorial supplies and a rusted mop bucket, she opened a hidden panel in the wall, something she had quietly built during her late-night shifts over months. Inside was a dusty server rig, humming softly. It was the beating heart of a system no one knew existed, a system she had created in the shadows. A system built to do only one thing: expose every dark secret the billionaires of Titan Tech tried to bury. The server hummed softly like a creature coming alive after years in hiding. Nia sat on an overturned paint bucket in the cramped utility closet, the glow of her laptop casting shifting shadows on the exposed pipes above. She connected the drive hidden in her cleaning cart, encrypted, firewalled, and lethal. The screen blinked. Her fingertips hovered over the keys as memories surged through her veins like electricity. The headline from 3 years ago burned. Behind her eyes, rising cybersecurity star implicated in Titan Tech leak. A smear campaign built on lies, paid testimonies, and corrupted data. All because she had refused to help cover up the illegal surveillance Langston's company was testing on users. They thought burying her under false charges and throwing her out with nothing would silence her. They were wrong. Code streamed across, her screen like rain on glass. Lines of digital truth unraveling in real time. She wasn't just inside their system. She was inside everything. Titan Tech's internal communications, off-ledger transactions, security camera backdoors, and most importantly, Langston's private files. She'd waited for this access. Patience was a habit she'd sharpened to perfection. As gigabytes poured into her drive, Nia whispered to herself, not out of fear, but to anchor the moment in reality. They ruined the wrong girl. Across the city, Langston sat in his penthouse, sipping rare whiskey, laughing with foreign investors, unaware that his empire's walls were beginning to crumble. Back at Titan Tech Tower, Naya found something buried in a hidden directory, a set of blackmail files labeled Insurance. She clicked. One by one, the faces of Langston's closest allies filled the screen. Politicians, judges, CEOs, emails, videos, financial documents, all collected, all ready to be used in case anyone turned against him. Naya's breath caught in her throat. This wasn't just corporate corruption. This was rot at the roots of the system. And Langston had been sitting on it like a king with a knife under his throne. Suddenly, the building lights flickered. Naya froze. Motion sensors had picked something up. She closed the laptop and carefully packed the server back into its casing. She moved like a ghost, pushing her cart back into the hallway just as a late-shift security guard passed by with a flashlight. He gave her a nod, just the janitor, nothing more. She returned the nod and rolled past him, disappearing into the elevator. As the doors closed, her reflection looked back at her. Hair tied back, uniform stained, shoes still soaked. But behind her eyes now burned something fierce, something unbreakable. Power. She didn't sleep that night. She couldn't. At 5 a.m., she was in a corner cafe with her laptop open and headphones in. On the screen was a blueprint, a digital map she had built from months of infiltration. She wasn't just going to leak the documents, she was going to burn Titan Tech to the ground, but not all at once. That would be too easy. She wanted them to feel it. First, the files would go to an anonymous journalist, a reporter who had lost her job after trying to expose Titan Tech's first data breach years ago. Then, Nia would trigger a chain of internal whistleblower leaks through fake identities she'd spent months creating, one employee at a time. Then, the financial exposure, shell companies, offshore accounts, bribery trails leading directly to Langston's executive suite. She smiled for the first time in years. Justice wasn't just coming, it was already here. The media storm hit like a hurricane. By Monday morning, headlines screamed from every major news outlet. Titan Tech under federal investigation. CEO Langston implicated in global bribery network, and anonymous hacker exposes billionaire surveillance empire. But none of them knew who had done it. None of them suspected the woman who had silently swept floors and scrubbed toilets while memorizing security codes and watching patterns no camera could trace. Langston sat in the boardroom, his face drained of color. For the first time in his life, he wasn't in control. His usual arrogance was crumbling under the weight of panic. Investors were backing out, the board was demanding answers, and the files, that damning trove of secrets, were real. "What do you mean someone bypassed our encryption?" he barked at the IT chief, veins bulging in his neck. "Our servers were supposed to be untouchable." "They used internal admin access," the man stammered. "Someone who knew the building, knew our systems from the inside." Langston's mind raced. That janitor, the black girl with the cheap shoes and quiet eyes, he had mocked her without a second thought. But now the memory of her face returned, calm, composed, not afraid. His arrogance had blinded him. She had been right under his nose, and now she had burned his kingdom to the ground without ever raising her voice. Across town, Nia walked through the same tower, this time in broad daylight, not hiding in shadows. She wore a clean blazer over her uniform, a silent symbol of her dual identity. She wasn't finished yet. The files she'd leaked were only part of the truth. What Langston didn't know was that she had copies, encrypted backups scattered across the cloud, scheduled to release if anything happened to her, and now she was ready for the final act. She stepped into the 42nd floor boardroom, invited, not sneaking. The interim board, desperate to clean the company's image, had called her in. They didn't know she had once been their janitor. They only knew she was the one who had brought the truth. The room went silent when she entered. Langston, already disgraced, sat in a corner flanked by 2 federal agents. His eyes widened when he saw her. "You," he whispered. She didn't flinch. "Yes," she said calmly. "Me." Someone offered her a seat. She didn't take it. "I don't need a chair," she said. "I didn't come to be comfortable. I came to make sure no one ever uses power to destroy truth again." One of the board members asked, "What do you want, Ms. Brooks?" She looked around the room. Men in suits, some guilty, some complicit, all silent. And then she spoke the words that echoed far beyond that room. "I want the girl who scrubs your floors to never be invisible again. I want transparency in your contracts. I want you to rebuild what you broke. And I want Langston to remember that sometimes the lowest person in the room is the one holding the match." Langston stood up, trembling. "You'll pay for this." Nia turned to him slowly. "I already did," she said. "Now it's your turn." The room remained frozen, breathless. And in that moment, the woman they had mocked, dismissed and forgotten, became the only one who held the truth. The world would remember her not for the shoes she wore, but for the steps she took in them. But just as Nia began to rebuild from the ashes, something shifted. A new article appeared online, one that didn't celebrate her, but questioned her. The headline read, "Whistleblower or hacker? Who is the real Nia Brooks?" It was subtle. At first, a few obscure blogs, a couple of opinion pieces, but the smear campaign had begun. Old images were dug up. Twisted versions of her past were retold. They called her dangerous, unstable, vindictive. Some accused her of manufacturing evidence. Others suggested she was working with foreign agents. She knew exactly where it was, coming from. Langston was in prison, but the empire he helped build still had loyalists, powerful ones. Men and women who owed their fortunes to his silence. They wanted revenge, or at least to tarnish hers. For a brief moment, Nia considered retreating. She had already won. Why keep fighting? But the silence of the past, the way it swallowed her mother, the way it tried to erase her, echoed too loudly to ignore. So she went public. She appeared on a live broadcast. No script, no makeup, no flashy production, just her, speaking into a mic. "I was mocked for my shoes, not because they were dirty, but because people like me are not expected to walk into rooms where power lives. I didn't come to burn it all down. I came to make sure no one else has to stay quiet just to survive." That clip exploded online. Within hours, celebrities reposted it. Activists rallied behind it. And most surprisingly, tech workers from inside the very systems she exposed began leaking even more files. It wasn't just Titan Tech. It was an entire ecosystem designed to silence, to erase, to reward cruelty and mock vulnerability. And now, the ecosystem was breaking. Months passed. Ground level expanded internationally. Nia met with global leaders. She was nominated for multiple awards. Not that she cared much for trophies. What mattered was seeing the women from cleaning crews, cafeteria lines, nursing homes, stepping into tech training rooms, learning how to code, how to defend themselves online, how to demand more. She kept the shoes framed on her office wall, just beneath a glass board where she wrote goals in dry erase markers, always in blue, her mother's favorite color. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the city's sharp skyline, Nia stood looking out the window of her new office on the 60th floor of a building that used to belong to Titan Tech. She was no longer invisible. She was the woman who once walked through fire, wearing broken shoes, and came out holding the torch. And the world would never forget who she really was.